Well, hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today for this Highland dancing discussion that we've organised as part of Cowal virtual gathering for this year. My name is Ross Armour. I'm one of the Master of Ceremonies for the dancing at Cowal these days, and I'm delighted to be joined by not only three world champions, but three multiple-time world champions at that as well, be in Erin Blair from the United States, Morgan Bamford from New Zealand, and Colleen Rintamaki from Canada. The three of them also have a combined total of 20 world championships between them. So just to kick us off here, Colleen, if I could start with you, what are some of your earliest memories of Cowal and coming over to and seeing and competing at Dunoon Stadium for the first time?
So the first time that I traveled to Scotland was when I was 10 years old, and it was more or less to kind of see what it was all about. And it was quite different than here at home in Canada. It was pretty rainy and cold, and I would say that the dancers were a little hardier, tougher, could withstand a little bit more. So it was an interesting experience. And then traveling to Dunoon and the Cowal Games, it was it's changed quite a lot over the years. So when I first started going, there was no tent over the main dance stage. There weren't warm-up areas, and it's really come a long way. It's really nice to see the progress that is being made with it. But it's an exciting time coming over to Cowal, and you hope for the sunny day for the Day of Worlds, but you never know what you're going to get.
Great. Morgan?
I came over when I was 8, and we were actually over on I think it's the east side where the smaller stages are now. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the east platforms are over there. I think the year you actually mentioned that that was on the west side. Yeah, so that was I think that they just did the 8s and 9s over there that year.
In those days, the steps got longer when you were 10, so it would make sense that the 8 and 9-year-olds were separated. I remember we were staying in Stirling that year. We didn't come all the way over and stay in Dunoon, so we drove over that morning, and we were very, 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 very early, and we sat outside with a thermos waiting for the gates to open in the cold. But it was sunny that day, which was good.
Great. Erin, what was how old were you when you first came to Cowal?
I came over for the first time when I was 10, I think, and I didn't really know what was happening. I had only been dancing for a couple of years. So I was just excited to go to foreign country. I'd never been outside of the US, or I think I'd been to Canada a couple times, but I'd never been out of North America. And the competitions are definitely different over there, over in Scotland, like the warm-up tents and the stage and stuff with just a tent over it. I wasn't used to that, so it was a really fun experience just to do something different.
Obviously, you're all very highly successful dancers throughout your careers, really. But just talking a bit about the road and lead up to Cowal, even early on, say in the competitive year, was Cowal always at the back of your mind? Was it always a particular focus? Morgan, do you want to go first with that one?
I think for me in New Zealand, it was probably a little bit different to those of you in countries where you had a lot of competitions. We would sometimes go from Cowal one year, and I wouldn't do a championship again till August the following year. So for us, Cowal was the number one priority for the entire year for me. That's what I was dancing for. There were no other big championships that I was focusing on. Occasionally we would go over to Australia, but yeah, Cowal was it for me.
That's amazing, that you would do, that's your main championship of the whole year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so different over here in Canada. We had many championships, multiple championships throughout a month. So it's quite a different experience.
Yeah, yeah. Looking back, I always am surprised, and yeah, I don't know how I did it, but in saying that, I don't know if I quite enjoyed not having that pressure of having to be ready for a championship early on in the year and having to do one very often. So I guess there's bonuses and ups and downs for both sides. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, Colleen, with you, I mean, obviously over here in the UK, we have a pretty intense sort of competitive calendar. I guess it would be similar in Ontario.
Mhm.
Would you say that helped you, particularly in the lead up to Cowal?
Oh, for sure. And I think the timing of all of our championships too. So it starts, you know, May is sort of when the championship season starts here. And then June, we would have the Ontario championships. The Canadians would be in July, and then August would be the World. So every month there was, I mean, one really major, but there were multiple championships around those ones as well. And I think there was always the goal you were working towards, you know, going over to Scotland and competing at the Worlds, but you had all your stepping stones as well, all of your short-term goals and then the long-term goals as well in there. So I think it helped a lot. And being in Ontario, we've always had a really high standard of dancing here. So it was really, really helpful to have that competition here as well.
Erin, you mentioned you obviously went to Canada. Did you do that on a relatively regular occasion in order to help you competition wise?
Yeah, we would try to go to Canada like a couple of times a year, and then we would also go to Canadians. And I think that competing, I would try to do like at least one championship every month for like probably from February until Cowal. I just enjoyed doing them, so I don't think I ever necessarily had in mind like that was part of my training. I just trained to do the best that I could, like to dance the best I could on the day of a competition.
If I could take you all back to individually, the first time the three of you obviously won your first World Championship. Morgan, you obviously famously won your first one when you were 12 in the juvenile. Going back to that particular year, what are your memories of that? Like, was that a surprise?
I was talking to Judy about this yesterday, and I don't think that I was fully aware of the significance of what I had done at 12. I don't think it was until I got a little bit older that I realized how much of an achievement that it actually was. Our goal that year was for me to get in the top 6 at Worlds. Secretly in the back of my mind, I was planning on winning it. But yeah, our goal was top 6. So for me to win was really exciting. But yeah, I don't think I really understood the significance of winning it at 12. The thing that I was most excited about actually was winning it beside you, Colleen. That was like my dream, and especially because it was your sort of comeback year, and it was definitely your last year. So for me, it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity to win it next to you. So that was the most important thing for me on that day. That was to do the fling next to you. That was.
Well, that makes me feel very old. No, I remember you winning your first Worlds, and it was exciting because I remember being over in New Zealand with you too, and you were just this like spunky little firecracker thing. It was just unbelievable. So amazing watching you win your first Worlds. It was so good.
Erin, you were obviously 13, I believe.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that year?
Well, I remember, I think I also didn't really appreciate the significance of like winning a world championship. I mean, I think my goal that year was just to get through all the dances really clean and like goal top 6, but I wasn't actually expecting anything. Looking back at it now, I still don't feel like I ever really won one. It like the whole day is just kind of a whirlwind and it feels unreal. So
Colleen, you obviously have 10 World Championships, which is obviously a record. The first one that you won in 1995, would you say that that was arguably the most significant one in order to aid you going forward?
I don't know. You know what? All the worlds, and the other girls will be able to speak to this, they have, I mean, everyone is really, really challenging, and you have a different group of dancers with you each time as well. The competition is always fierce and stiff. So, I mean, every single one of them, you're working so hard towards it, and it's different. So that first one, I had competed in the worlds the 2 years prior, and I had come second and third. And then when I was 14, it was a really special year too, because the BBC they were doing their documentary that year, that fling thing. So it was, you know, captured on film, which was exciting. And to win the first worlds, and I understood what it was about. I'd been in 2 world championships already, and I knew where I'd sort of gone wrong with it. So it, you know, with a better attitude, I got to my goal. But I think too, every year was just really challenging, and the pressure that comes on you as being a world champion, there's an expectation there as well. And I felt it more and more as I got older. So I think like I felt, especially when I got into the adult group, I felt like everybody was waiting for me to make a mistake. It wasn't, I didn't always feel like I had people necessarily rooting for me. It was, they were waiting to see something happen. And I think it was just a psychological thing that it was going on in my head, but it's challenging. It's hard, but each world is, you know, has its own significance. And moving into the juniors, I mean, that's a challenge of its own. And then moving into the adults, I mean, it's that's a scary one. That's a big jump, because you're with everybody and many world champions in there. So it's all exciting.
Yeah, no kidding.
I agree with the added pressure every year. I think it did definitely get harder mentally every single year, because people are there to beat you, really. That's what they're wanting to do. So yeah, I agree with that fully. Yeah.
Just wanted to ask you, 3 of you individually. Erin, I'll start with you with this one. At what point in your competitive Highland dancing career did you firmly establish the belief that, yes, I could genuinely be a world champion and win that title at Cowal in the juvenile, obviously, firstly?
I don't think it ever really hit me until I was standing there like with the trophy in my hands. I mean, I just went there. I was like, I just wanted, on the day of finals, I just went up and did each dance, and I wanted to make sure that I was having fun. And it turned out that I did pretty well, but I still, even now, I don't think that it's like, it doesn't feel like I could do that. I think it's kind of, yeah, I don't know, a weird feeling.
Morgan, you obviously mentioned that at the back of your mind, as young as 12, it was obviously something that, you know, obviously you wanted to do, but also deep down probably felt that you had a chance at. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
I think I'm highly competitive. So I didn't love practicing. I didn't have that real love of competing like you did, Erin, but I really, really loved winning. So I think probably from when I went when I was 8 and saw it, that's when I decided that's what I wanted to do. But I don't know that there was necessarily a time that I realized that I could, like, I can't pinpoint a time that I realized that I could, I guess you could say. So I was very much in my focus just for each year at a time. I was just there to win that year. That was my goal. So I guess when I got to 12, that's when I decided that I would like to win that year. When I was 11, obviously I only did the Friday, and then Judy made me sit and watch the entire Saturday finals, because she was like, this will be you next year. So I remember sitting up in the top of the grandstand watching when I was 11 in preparation for when I was 12.
What was your thoughts on watching that? Like, was it just an urge to be up there?
Honestly, I can't really remember. I remember being in awe of all of the dancers up there. And I remember that there was a girl sitting in front of us, and every time she came back off the platform, and she was all, she was puffed and exhausted, but she also was really excited. And I think it might have been her first time competing on the big platform. So I just remember sort of watching her day unfold as well. Yeah, I was really excited when I was 12. I think one of the biggest things that you guys will probably agree with was dancing on the big platform for the first time and being in front of the big grandstand. And I remember that year, actually, I think the dancers may have got some sponsorship from a water, maybe the Scottish Water Company or something. I don't know the name, but there were all these free water bottles out the back, and I was like, that made my day. I felt like I was like in the big game now. So
Colleen, you obviously had very good results that you've previously mentioned in the 2 years leading up to winning the World Championship for the first time, third and second. Did that give you confidence as well that you could obviously come back and take the next step?
Yeah, I think so. I had done really well in all the championships I competed in, and then the 2 years, like you mentioned, in the Worlds. I think we knew I had the ability to do really well. I just had to make sure that I stayed focused and in the game. So not worry about the other dancers, not worry about who's judging. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's out of your hands. It's out of your control. As long as you've done the best dancing that you could do, it's, you have no control over how the judges are going to judge it. You have no control how the other dancers have done as well. So I remember after I was done competing when I was 14, I felt really, really good. Like I felt really positive about it. So I had done all I could do, and then it was up to the judges. So yeah, but we knew I had the ability to do well. It's just, there's so many other elements that play into it as well.
I've got to ask Colleen, you specifically a follow-up question about that year, that your final year when you came back. Obviously won your 9th World Championship, 2003, 2004. Obviously, we didn't see you over here, and then 2005 you came back and famously won it for the 10th time. Talk us through the decision-making process, behind doing that and coming back.
Okay, so when I had won my 9th Worlds, I wasn't really mentally, I didn't want to stop dancing, but physically I had to. I had to have surgery on my feet, so I thought that was it. That was going to be the end of my dancing. And then the year I took off was a very, very tough year. The day that the Worlds were going on, I think I sat there and cried. Like I couldn't believe I wasn't there and part of it. I wanted to be at the Worlds competing. I missed it so much. So I had a really good recovery from my surgery. And then I decided, I'd heard a lot of dancers talk about their experience at Cowal and looking up into the grandstands and seeing all the faces. And I thought to myself, I don't think I've ever actually experienced that. Like I've been so laser focused on what I'm doing while I was on the stage at Cowal that I didn't have that same experience, and I wanted to see what that was all about. So I made the mistake of not competing all year. And I think I did like 1 or 2 competitions. And then I went to Scotland to compete in the Worlds, which was insane. And I was just a bundle of nerves. I wouldn't leave our B&B the entire week. I just sat and stretched and practiced, but I was terrified to go onto the streets and see people. And the day of the Worlds, I was just awful. Like just a big bundle of nerves. It was terrible. It was such an emotional year. And to be honest, it wasn't until the champions fling at the end that I actually looked out into the audience and tried to take it all in, because I don't know how you can compete at the Worlds and just not be laser focused on what you're doing. So yeah, it was, I missed competing so much that I really felt like I needed to do it, go back and compete and have that last experience. But I also had my mom and Joy promise me to never allow me to do it again, because it was just, the pressure, and it was just nerve-wracking. It was, yeah.
I mean, that kind of leads me nicely into my next question for the 3 years. I want to ask you about World Finals Day specifically. Erin, I'll start with you. How do you approach that day? Talk us through the psychology of it. Obviously, you're aiming ideally to put forward your absolute best performance up there. And as well as that, was there a particular routine that you had for that day, or anything you did in particular?
I think like the day before the finals, or I guess we were doing the qualifying round on the Friday, but so I guess on Thursday, sorry. I would just kind of like go through some steps and like maybe stretch a little bit, and I just like sit at home and like relax, because if I practiced too much or thought about it too much, I'd get myself worked up and I'd get really nervous. So, but I think that training like stamina, like the whole year, I was confident like going into the weekend of Cowal that like I was gonna be able to dance my best and feel strong on stage and everything. Yeah.
Morgan?
I can relate to you, Colleen, when you said that you sort of sat in the B&B and didn't leave. I was a little bit like that. The older I got, the worse the nerves got, and I kind of just went into myself. On the morning of, I love to be there really early, like 3 hours early. I just wanted to be ready, and I wanted to be there just to sort of chill out and not be in a rush. We always had the same warm-up spot. Judy would go even earlier than me, like 4 or 5 hours early. And
where was your warm-up spot in the stadium?
Just right at the bottom of the stairs, sort of as you come out of the grandstand, just directly next to the stairs, sort of near the toilets. Because I was so nervous, I used to use the bathroom before and after every single dance, and it used to drive Judy insane. And I was just very superstitious, so I would always have porridge for breakfast. We would always warm up in the same area. Judy wore the same jewelry. I even think she may have wore the same outfit each year. We were very much sort of routine. That worked well for me.
Colleen?
Yeah, so leading up, I mean, I would somewhat isolate myself, although we always made sure we would go into the bakery on the main street and get our tomato soup and cheese toasties. I always had to do that. But the morning of Worlds, it was just routine about doing my hair, and I would use the same hairspray always. And so it was like panic if I was running out of hairspray, and Mom would have to search the island for this specific type of hairspray that I needed, and just silly things, right? It's the nerves taking over. But actually at the World, so Joy and I wouldn't really go through the dances together. Now it got harder as I got older, because as they started putting tents up over the warm-up areas, we couldn't do this. But I used to go to where we would line up, and I would just practice my steps down there and watch Joy in the stands, and she would just give me thumbs up or like snap it more or whatever. It would like all hand signals while I was warming up at the side of the stage. When the tents all went up, we couldn't really do that anymore. So we had to figure out new strategies. But it was really just trying to stay to myself and continue moving the entire time. So just deal with the nerves.
Erin, you mentioned the stamina aspect of Highland dancing there. I mean, obviously at Cowal, you're dancing. I mean, we've slightly changed the format now in that the qualifiers take place on the Thursday. You obviously have to dance 2 championships, possibly 3. in the space of a couple of days. Was that all part of the preparation?
Oh, definitely. I would do like back-to-back dances like every day, just to get really strong. And then like I was fortunate I was able to go over to Scotland like a few weeks before Cowal. And so we do like 2 or 3 championships each weekend leading up to Cowal, which I think also really helped me. Yeah.
One of the highlights of the dancing weekend in that is the World Champions Fling. What are your memories of that? Is that, would it be fair to say that that would be a particular highlight, not just for being at Cowal, but your Highland dancing careers in general?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like the Champions Fling, and I think that is the one moment where you can actually appreciate Cowal because the pressure's off. Although the first time I won, I remember Judy saying to me, "This has to be the best fling you have ever done," and I was like, oh, "Okay." So I think that first 4-step fling was harder than any other fling I think I'd ever done in my life because I tried so hard. But after that, as years went on, it was amazing, and it was the one time where I did look out to the stands and really appreciate it. So much so that I think 3 years in a row I made mistakes in the Champions Fling. I did the wrong step and I ran on the spot for 8 counts, I think. So yeah, it was good.
Oh, it's definitely a special moment. And I agree. It is the one opportunity where the pressure's off a little bit. You can relax and really just take it all in. However, again, as I got older, if, by that point I was so stiff and not being able to warm up, there were a couple of those flings that I'm not sure I was really jumping too well. And I remember coming off and Joy's like, thank God that wasn't the world in the world, it's they weren't always the prettiest, but it's the pressure's off at that point. And it's that was sort of the completion of my competitive year. I usually took a little bit of time off after Worlds, so it was like that, that wrapped it all up. And what a great moment to wrap it all up. It was great.
Those flings were definitely the coldest flings that I ever do. But like I was just running on so much adrenaline all the time. I felt like I could do anything, but I was always like huffing and puffing after a 4-step fling. It was not good. But it was always a lot of fun just to because the grandstand starts like clapping to the rhythm of the music, and it's just like it's such a fun environment to be dancing in again. So yeah, it's a good end to a good day.
Colleen, I'll start with you on this one. What advice would you give to any Highland dancer that's attending Cowal, either for the first time or somebody that's been there multiple times?
I think try and take in as much as you can of it. However, you're there for a purpose. So, you've worked hard all year and you want to enjoy it, but at the same time, really focus. You want to give it your all and have that be your best performance, so enjoy, but focus and, take it all in. I think, there's a time and place for everything that you can do it. But it's just exciting to be up on those boards and to dance with dancers from around the world and the best of the best, right? It's just a really amazing experience and an amazing venue to be at.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. And I think all dancers go for a different reason. So, we were there to win pretty much, I think. But there are others that go purely for the experience. So I think just make the most of the reason that you are there and give it your best shot, and appreciate it, make the most of it, and make lots of friends, because I think that's the biggest thing, is all the international friends that we all make.
Relaxing and taking it all in, but you're there for a serious reason. It's a huge honor to be able to go there and compete on the Cowal stage. Just taking it all in, enjoying the experience, because it's a really amazing environment to dance in, and an amazing venue and everything. It's beautiful.
Make the time to actually walk around the the arena, because I don't think it was until I was like much older that I realized I hadn't even been on the other side of the arena, because I'd always just been so focused on dancing that I hadn't seen anything apart from the dancing platform. So yeah, make the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, a common theme with the three of you there is obviously the venue, Dunoon Stadium in itself. Very much an iconic place to be for Highland, not just Highland dancers, but anyone that's obviously been to Cowal. Question for Colleen and Morgan specifically now. You guys were obviously made honorary life patrons of Cowal after you had retired from competing, and were then invited back to present the World Championship trophies. How was that experience?
That was amazing, and it was such an honor. And it's different to be on the other side of it, and to see the look in the dancers' eyes as you're presenting them the trophies. I mean, that excitement and just the emotion that comes over them. I mean, I think I burst into tears with so many of the dancers because it's just so exciting. But it was such an honor, and it was so nice to be included and be involved in that manner. When you're done competing, when you retire, it's, what do you do then, right? But it was great to still be involved and be included and be part of it, although I missed dancing on the stage. But yeah, it was great. It's amazing to see the emotion, though, up close in each dancer's eyes. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I had no idea that I was going to get that patronage. I was just stoked that I was able to go and give the trophies. So when I got awarded that, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked, but it was amazing. And one of the highlights, I think, was sitting on that stage as the champions fling was done, but not from that perspective. It was from sort of sitting back and clapping and watching it, but from the stage. It was quite a bizarre experience, but it was amazing. Yeah.
Morgan, the year you got to present the trophies, you actually gave me the junior championship trophy. And I remember walking up there and I was like so nervous, because I would only get nervous for results because then I couldn't, it was out of my hands. I couldn't do anything. But I remember walking up and seeing your smile, and I was just like starstruck. I was like, oh my God. So I was like so excited.
Thank you.
Just before we finish, I just wanted to ask you each individually. Erin, I'll start with you. What is your favorite aspect of being at Cowal in general?
I think definitely the venue and the energy and just being around all of these other amazing dancers. It's just such an amazing experience. And I definitely learned a lot each year about myself. I don't know it's just being at Cowal. I feel like I always found out something new about the way I danced or the way I approached something.
Yep. I think Dunoon as a whole, it's just the entire place, not just Cowal, it's the venue itself, but just the whole place. You get on the ferry, and once you get there, it's that whole weekend is just memorable. And the friends, I think the friends is a big one. So yeah, I miss it a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm. I think I miss it a lot too. Yeah, I would agree. I think it's the whole experience. It's the whole town. Walking up and down the streets and all the little shops and the bakery, and seeing people from all over the world that and you're all meeting in this one little place. And for the competition, it's a great, exciting weekend. And at the Worlds itself, I mean, being on that stage is unbelievable. It's a really hard thing to describe. And dancing with the best dancers in the world. And I just always remember, I mean, it's changed a lot over the years, but they used to have the races going on while we were dancing. So you'd have runners running in front of you as you're doing your fling. And then the heavyweight events were right next to us, and you'd have to run and move out of the line because there's a caber coming at you. And I mean, like, where else does that happen, right? It's only at the World, and the pipe bands are marching right behind you. It was just like the whole atmosphere. And then I'll never forget the baked potato truck that was behind the stand. I look forward to that every single year, getting my baked potato after the Worlds were done. Like, there's just so many different elements of it. It's nothing compares to it. It's definitely the best games around.
I think it's the small things, actually. Like when you said the baked potato, and it is the small things, and they just sort of accumulate to this one big experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking even just the sound of the piper's toe tapping on that stage when they pipe. I think it's way more noticeable at Cowal than anywhere else. And and it's the smells, and everything sort of becomes this big experience that you cannot describe. You've got to experience it, I think. And I think every dancer should try, if they can, to experience it at least once in their life.
Sure. And I think I speak for everybody when I say, even if you were planning on attending or watching virtually, we're all going to really miss the gathering not being there physically this year. Just final question then to wrap up. Just keen to get from you all individually what your involvement is with Highland dancing, or just dance in general now. Morgan, I'll start with you. Obviously, I'm quite aware of that you're still actively involved. I was obviously in New Zealand last year to judge the championship there. How are you enjoying the teaching and judging aspect these days?
I love teaching. I love it. So yeah, I'm teaching and judging and doing quite a few workshops and things like that. And I'm definitely still highly involved. Teaching is, I don't know how to describe it. I love it. I love being able to pass it on and watching children progress and get better, and just seeing them succeed and love dancing as much as I did or do. So yeah, hopefully one day I can bring another dancer to Cowal. I have brought one over, and that was almost more nerve-wracking than being on the stage myself, because I couldn't control what she did. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I've had a couple of little ones go and place at Cowal the past couple of years, and it's certainly definitely more nerve-wracking. I mean, you have no control over what they're doing really once they get up there. So I can relate to that. Erin, what role does dance have in your life still these days?
Well, I'm still like taking Highland lessons and everything, and I would like to go back to Cowal and compete in the 18 and over, because I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. And I would also like to start teaching pretty soon, get a school going. And I'm currently dancing with a ballet company in Ohio. So yeah.
Great. Colleen, am I right in saying your daughter is now dancing with Joy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's very nerve-wracking. And I agree with Morgan. Teaching is it's really satisfying, and being able to pass on your love and your passion and share it with others, and seeing dancers reach goals and succeed, and see the hard work pay off is really, really nice. But it is, almost worse watching them dance, because you don't have full control over it like you do of yourself. And then my daughter, it's the same thing. I mean, it is exhausting. She's only doing patty bas and high cuts, and they are the most tiring things to watch. My hips kill by the end of her 16 patty bas from trying to turn out for her. So yeah, it's exciting, and it's nice to go down the road into different avenues, and I don't know how Linda and Joy and Judy made it through all those worlds with us. Like,
no way.
Yeah, it takes a lot to be a dance teacher.
Yeah, I agree with that actually. I don't think I really, I definitely appreciated Judy and everything she did for me, but I don't think I appreciated just quite how much they do until I became a teacher myself. And you realize, yeah.
Great. Well, I would just like to finish by saying a very special thank you, obviously, to all three of you for taking part in this today. It's been fantastic to hear from you all. And obviously, to you and everybody else in the world that's tuning in to watch this, hope you're all keeping well. Please stay safe. And my very best.
Well, thank you, Ross.
Thanks for having us. It was great.
Thank you.